Ozzy Osbourne ending up on that rural Tennessee back road that morning was pure chance. His sat-nav had gone mental again, steering him miles off the main highway onto a dusty dirt track. All around him were cornfields, rotting barns, and silence. Just as he'd decided to turn back, a sound reached his ears. A guitar. But the guitar spoke a language Ozzy knew well: struggle, survival, and stubborn hope. Ozzy killed the engine and quietly rolled down his window. The sound was coming from an old barn nearby. He stepped out of the car and started walking. With each step, dust clouds rose, and the sun burned the back of his neck. The barn door was slightly ajar, and the guitar sound from inside was clearer now. Someone was playing country music, but the guitar strings were so busted that there was a strange rasp between the notes. Still, whoever was playing was trying to create something beautiful with that broken instrument. Ozzy gently pushed the door and looked inside. What he saw froze him in his tracks. In the middle of the barn, sitting on a makeshift stool, was a boy about 15 years old. His hair was long and messy, his t-shirt patched, and on his feet was a pair of torn trainers. The guitar in his hands was an absolute disaster. 2 strings were missing, cracks ran through the body, and the paint was peeling off. But the kid was playing it with such passion, as if he were holding a Fender Stratocaster. His eyes were closed, his lips moving slightly. He was humming a Johnny Cash song. Ozzy stood in the doorway and listened. The boy's fingers moved so quickly over the strings that you could almost forget they were broken. Suddenly, the boy opened his eyes and saw Ozzy. He froze, the guitar nearly slipping from his hands. His face flushed red, and he lowered his head in embarrassment. Ozzy spoke softly in that Birmingham accent of his. "Don't stop, son. You were just getting to the good bit." The boy stared in disbelief, stammering his reply. You're Ozzy Osbourne, aren't you?" Ozzy gave a slight laugh. "Yeah, last time I checked I was, but I don't know your name." The boy swallowed hard. "I'm Jesse, sir. Jesse Calhoun." Ozzy stepped fully into the barn and looked around. Old tractor parts, rust-stained tools, piles of wood. In one corner, a small sleeping bag, and next to it, a few tin cans. This kid was living here. Ozzy looked at Jesse's guitar and frowned. "Where'd you find this thing, lad? Looks like it's been through a war." Jesse smiled sheepishly. "Found it in a skip, sir. The bloke who owns the music shop in town threw it out. The strings were snapped, the neck was cracked, but I tried to fix it. I could only find 4 strings, so I fitted those. Didn't have the money for the others." Ozzy's heart sank. This kid was feeding his soul with a guitar pulled from the rubbish. "Why are you living here, Jesse? Where's your family?" he asked. Jesse's face darkened, his eyes dropping to the floor. "My dad died 3 years ago, sir. Heart attack. My mum passed last year from illness. I've got no relatives, and I didn't want to go into care. This place is far from town. Nobody comes out here. So I stay. During the day I do odd jobs in town, make a few quid. At night I play guitar here." Ozzy's heart broke. This 15-year-old boy, all alone, living in poverty, yet still clinging to music. "How long have you been playing guitar?" he asked. Jesse's eyes lit up. "Since I was 6. When my dad bought me my first guitar, I made him a promise. I said, 'One day I'm going to be a musician like Johnny Cash.' My dad laughed at that. He said, 'Son, to be Johnny Cash, you've got to learn how to live first.' And that's what I'm doing, learning." Ozzy admired the boy's determination, but the reality was harsh. This kid needed a proper guitar, an education, a home, food. "Listen, Jesse, I can see you've got talent, but this guitar ain't gonna get you anywhere. Let me buy you a decent instrument, maybe find you a teacher as well," he said. Jesse immediately shook his head. "No, sir, I can't take that. You coming all the way here is already more than enough. Besides, I don't take charity. My dad always said, 'Jesse, a man earns his own bread.' And that's what I'm going to do." Ozzy smiled. The kid's pride made him even more endearing. "All right, lad, not charity then. But how about we make a deal? Play me a song, and if I like it, I'll buy you a guitar as a gift." "Deal?" Jesse's face brightened. Really? Ozzy nodded. Really. But be careful. I'm very picky. I sang for Black Sabbath for years. My standards are high. He said it with a playful tone. Jesse pulled the guitar onto his lap, took a deep breath, and began to play. He was playing the melody of Johnny Cash's Hurt, with just 4 strings on that busted guitar. But the way he played it, his fingers danced over the strings, each note telling a story. Ozzy stood there and listened. This 15-year-old kid understood the soul of music. It wasn't about technical perfection, it was about conveying feeling. Jesse closed his eyes and kept playing. At one point he paused because one of the strings gave out again, but he didn't give up. He switched to the other strings and finished the melody. When the song ended, a deep silence filled the barn. Jesse looked at Ozzy shyly. "Was it bad, sir?" Ozzy's eyes had welled up. He shook his head. "Bad?" "Son, that was one of the most honest performances I've ever heard. You played with your heart, and that's worth more than all that fancy technical stuff." A huge smile spread across Jesse's face. Ozzy continued. "All right, deal's done. Tomorrow morning I'm getting you a new guitar. But not just a guitar, Jesse. You need a proper home, food, and education." Jesse's smile faded. "But sir, I don't want to be a burden on you. I'm managing somehow as it is." Ozzy looked at him with a serious expression. "Managing ain't enough, lad. You shouldn't just survive. You should live. You talked about your dad, about a promise you made him. Well, can you keep that promise like this? In this barn, alone, on an empty stomach?" Jesse listened in silence. Ozzy stepped closer and put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Listen, I'm not just buying you a guitar. I'm offering you a future. You could go to music school, live somewhere proper, but in return, I want something from you." Jesse looked at him curiously. "What is it, sir?" Ozzy smiled. "One day when you're playing on big stages, I want you to remember a kid named Jesse Calhoun, who lived in a barn and dreamed with a guitar he pulled from a skip. And don't forget, tell that story to everyone, because people need hope. Maybe your story will give another kid courage." Tears began streaming down Jesse's face. "Why are you being so good to me?" Ozzy's eyes glistened too. "Because I lived that story, Jesse. In the rough parts of Birmingham, hungry, skint, alone. Music showed me a way out. Now I'm showing you." The next morning, Ozzy took Jesse to the best music shop in Nashville. The boy sat in the car seat, staring out the window. He'd never been to a city this big in his life. Skyscrapers, crowds, traffic. Everything was so foreign to him. Ozzy noticed the kid's excitement and smiled. "First time in Nashville?" he asked. Jesse nodded. "Yes, sir. I've never left town, really. My dad wanted to take me once when he was alive, but we couldn't afford it. He said, 'One day we'll be rich, Jesse, then we'll see everything.'" Ozzy's heart sank again. "Well, today's that day, lad. Even if you're not rich, at least you'll have a proper guitar." When they walked into the shop, Jesse's jaw dropped. Hundreds of guitars hung on the walls, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, bass guitars, vintage models, brand new releases, each one displayed in gleaming cases. Jesse didn't dare touch any of them. The place felt like a museum. Ozzy approached a sales assistant and explained the situation. The assistant looked at Jesse, then turned to Ozzy. "Mr. Osbourne, you're doing something wonderful. Let's pick the best one for this young man." They walked together to the guitar section. The assistant showed them several models suited to Jesse's age and level. They were all magnificent, but Jesse's eyes locked onto a guitar in the corner. That guitar was different, a black acoustic with delicate silver detailing. Ozzy followed the boy's gaze and pointed at it. "That one?" Jesse nodded shyly. "It's beautiful, but it must be really expensive." The assistant took it down and handed it to Jesse. "Martin D28, one of Johnny Cash's favorite models. A proper classic, this." When Jesse took the guitar in his hands, he handled it as if holding a sacred relic. He lightly touched the strings, making a sound. In that moment, he understood the difference between this and that broken guitar in the barn. This guitar had soul. Ozzy turned to the assistant. We'll take it. And throw in a case, spare strings, a set of picks, and whatever else he needs. The assistant got straight to work. Jesse was still staring at the guitar, his eyes brimming with tears. Sir, how am I going to pay for this? He whispered. Ozzy laughed. There's nothing to pay, Jesse. I told you it's a gift, but there's one condition. Jesse looked at him curiously. What is it? Ozzy's expression turned serious. With this guitar, you'll only play what your heart tells you. Not for money or fame. Whatever music makes you feel, that's what you'll put out there. Deal? Jesse nodded firmly. I promise, sir. As they walked toward the till, Ozzy had another thought. Hold on, let's grab a few more things. Jesse was surprised. What else are we getting? Ozzy gestured around the shop. An amp, an electric guitar, maybe a microphone too. If you're going to be a musician, you need proper kit. Jesse tried to protest, but Ozzy wouldn't hear it. In the end, they bought 2 guitars, a small amp, a microphone set, and a load of accessories. When the clerk rang up the total, Jesse's face went pale. $12,000? Ozzy handed over his card. Don't worry about it, lad. That's not for you to stress over. When they left the shop, the car boot was completely packed. Jesse was still in shock. Ozzy didn't take him straight back to the barn. First, they stopped at a restaurant. Jesse admitted he hadn't had a proper meal in over a week. Ozzy ordered him a big steak, chips, and salad from the waiter. As Jesse started eating, Ozzy watched him. The boy was eating with such hunger he was nearly choking. Slow down, lad. Nobody's going to take it off you, Ozzy said with a playful tone. Jesse looked embarrassed and slowed down. Sorry, sir, I'm just really hungry. Ozzy raised his hand. No need to apologize, I understand. After the meal, Ozzy brought up something serious. Jesse, you can't go back to that barn. You can't keep living there. I've spoken to Sharon. We're taking you to Los Angeles. You can stay at our place and we'll sort out applications for music school. Jesse looked stunned. Los Angeles? But sir, I've never left here. My family's here. I mean, their graves are here. Ozzy understood. All right, then let's do this. We'll find you a proper place here, and we'll get you a mentor, but you can't stay in that barn alone anymore. Agreed? Jesse thought about it, then nodded. All right, sir. But I want to tell you something. Ozzy listened carefully. Jesse continued. I'm so grateful to you, but the only reason I'm accepting this help is because I want to keep the promise I made to my dad. I want to be a musician, but not through charity, through my own effort. You're giving me a start. The rest is up to me. Ozzy smiled. I like that spirit. Let's do it that way, then. By evening, Ozzy had rung up a local care home. He'd heard there was an elderly music teacher living there. The man's name was Tom Henderson. He'd once been one of Nashville's renowned guitarists, now retired and living at the home. Ozzy called him and explained the situation. Tom agreed to meet Jesse. If that boy's got real talent, I'll teach him everything, the old man had said. The next day, Ozzy introduced Jesse to Tom. The old man sat in his wheelchair, an old acoustic guitar in his hands. His hair was white, his hands trembled, but there was still a spark in his eyes. He looked at Jesse and smiled. So you're the kid who found a guitar in a skip? Ozzy told me everything. Right then, play me something. Let's see what you've got. Jesse pulled out his new guitar and began playing Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. Tom listened in silence, occasionally nodding his head. When the song finished, Tom turned to Ozzy. This kid's a rare breed. Technique can be taught, but you can't teach feeling. He's got feeling. I'll just shape it. Ozzy felt relieved. Then I'm making you Jesse's teacher, Tom. He'll come to you 3 days a week. I'll cover the cost. Tom waved his hand. I don't want money. I'm retired. What would I do with it? But here's the thing. This boy's gonna listen to me. He'll do everything I say, no questions. Music demands discipline. Deal? Jesse nodded without hesitation. Deal, Mr. Henderson. Whatever you say, I'll do it. Before Ozzy left, he handed Jesse a piece of paper. A phone number was written on it. This is my number. If you're ever in trouble, call me. I'm always here." Jesse carefully folded the paper and put it in his pocket. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you." Ozzy squeezed his shoulder. "You don't need to thank me. Just chase your dreams. That's enough for me." That night, when they returned to the barn, Ozzy had another surprise for Jesse. He'd brought in an electrician who'd fitted proper lighting and a small heater. He'd also left a bed, some blankets, and a stock of food. When Jesse stepped inside, he started crying. This wasn't just an old barn anymore. It was a small but warm home. "In a few weeks, we'll find you a proper flat in town. But for now, make yourself comfortable here," Ozzy said. As he was leaving, Jesse hugged him. "You're an angel, sir. My dad must have sent someone like you." Ozzy smiled. "I'm no angel. Don't you dare tell anyone I'm an angel, lad. I've got a reputation to protect. I'm just someone who was once where you are. That's all." He got in the car, and Jesse waved one last time. Ozzy waved back and drove off. 2 weeks later, Ozzy rented Jesse a small but clean flat in town. The furniture was basic but enough. A bed, a table, a chair, and most importantly, that Martin D28 guitar in the corner. On his first night there, Jesse sat on the edge of the bed and looked around. For the first time in his life, he had a real home. He picked up his guitar and began to play. This time it wasn't a broken instrument pulled from a skip. This time it was a tool to turn dreams into reality. Lessons with Tom Henderson began. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, he'd go to the care home and work for 3 hours. Tom was a tough teacher. He insisted Jesse hold his fingers in the right position, feel the rhythm, play every note cleanly. Sometimes Jesse's fingers bled, but he never gave up. "You can't be a musician without suffering, lad," Tom would say. "Your fingers need to toughen up, but your heart's got to stay soft." As the months passed, Jesse improved. He wasn't just playing Johnny Cash anymore. He was exploring different styles: blues, rock, folk. Music was a universal language, and he was learning to speak it. He started playing at a small cafe in town on weekends. The money wasn't much, but it was enough. And most importantly, people were listening to him. Some had heard his story about how Ozzy Osbourne had helped him. Others came simply because they loved the music. Either way, Jesse wasn't just surviving anymore, he was living. One evening, his phone rang. It was Ozzy. "How's it going, lad?" Jesse answered excitedly. "It's going brilliantly, sir. Tom's taught me so much. I'm playing at the cafe in town now. Last week a man came in and left me his card. He's a producer from Nashville. He said, 'You've got an interesting sound. Come by the studio sometime.'" There was pride in Ozzy's voice. "See? I told you. You've only just started, Jesse. You've got a long way to go." Jesse replied, "I know, sir. But I'm not scared anymore, because I'm not alone. I've got people like you beside me. I've got Tom. I've got my music. And most importantly, I'm keeping the promise I made to my dad. He'd be proud of me." Ozzy listened quietly, then spoke. "He's proud of you, Jesse. I'm sure he's watching you from up there, and I'm proud of you too." That night, Jesse looked out the window. Stars were shining in the sky. His dad always used to say, "Stars shine in the darkness, Jesse. You learn to shine in the dark, too." And now he was learning. He stroked his guitar one last time and smiled. "Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Ozzy. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, music." Then he lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow was a new day, a new lesson, a new note, a new step, and Jesse was ready. Because sometimes life gives you a second chance, and making the most of that chance is entirely in your hands.